Hey, everybody. Thanks again for listening and joining us on the Kestrel Country podcast. We really appreciate all of you liking, sharing, and subscribing and giving your feedback as well. This episode is brought to you by Kestrel Realty Group. We know Idaho. Hello and welcome. This is the Kestrel Country podcast, where we discuss the people, places, and events all around Kestrel Country. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Mike Church, and I'm joined again by my lovely wife and co-host, Catherine.
Hello, hello.
This interview we've got coming up, we're really excited about with Morgan Points and Monique Harby of
Harby Points.
They're a design firm here on the Palouse in Moscow, specializing in home design, both additions, remodels, new construction. They've really grown the last few years. It's been fun to watch them and the designs that they're bringing, their insights. So we had a really fun discussion with them.
If you have been downtown and seen some of their work, you might not even realize it, but they were responsible for some of the design work with the Anchor on Main, which is where Lodgepole and Humbleburger are housed. They've just done some beautiful work in making Moscow more beautiful.
Yeah, so we'll have a fun discussion with them about design, trends ahead, their story, how they got started into it. Really fun discussion, and hope you enjoy.
I'm Monique Harby,
And I'm Morgan Points.
and we're sisters, and we run Harby Points Architectural Design, which is a small firm here in Moscow, and we do custom homes, remodels, additions, and other commercial work, anything in between.
And that's why we have them on here today.
Yeah, we've been following you guys in your work. Obviously, we've been friends for a long time, too.
I've known them for a long time.
Yeah, Catherine especially. But, I've been following your guys' work, and it's really impressive, really exciting, especially I feel like in a small town like this to have that level of design.
And beautification of an area.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we just wanted to have you guys on, talk a little bit about your story. How'd you guys get into design? How'd you maybe even end up here? And how'd you start working together with a design shop?
Yeah. Well, I'll let Monique start since she was there at the beginning.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do architecture from pretty early on. I think early teens, I knew I would do that in school. Both our parents really enjoyed design. My dad does land development. So yeah, as I approached the end of high school, my dad had a random project in California, and it was kind of my first opportunity to actually do some design work. So he needed a little home being drafted up. It was on a really skinny lot. It was kind of very awkward shape, and he was like, just to get an idea of pricing on this and for the client, do you think you could draw something up? And I was like, awesome. Okay, I'll stay home from school. I'll learn this computer program. And so I stayed at home for a few days, learned this computer program, whipped it out, and that was my first actual project.
And Monique was already really artistically gifted. It wasn't like she didn't know anything. She was already practicing a lot, and she loves to paint and draw. So that, already her skills are gifted in that direction.
So then I went into college at University of Idaho in architecture, and continued doing a few small homes with my dad, and then just slowly started building my clientele outside of that with contractors and word of mouth. So it just grew into a little business.
And sorry, really quick, Monique, on the designs, what exactly are you designing for the clients generally?
I'm doing floor plans, elevations, and then getting package ready and submitted to the city or county for permits. So kind of full on drawings from working with them from the concept, from nothing to getting a permit.
For the lay people, elevations. Can you explain that term?
Monique always says, everyone knows what we're talking about. And I was like, Monique, when I joined you, I had no clue what you were talking about. And she just assumes everyone knows.
An elevation would be like looking at the front, facade of the house and seeing it in a 2D drawing. So
from all angles.
Seeing all sides of the house. Yeah.
Yeah, so the full design.
Yeah,
full
seeing
design.
the exterior, not just
Yeah.
from a bird's eye view, looking down at a plan. You're seeing the full massing 3D exterior model of the house in an elevation. So.
So yeah, the first plans I submitted to the city were hand drawn, and I used like a drafting table and like a T-bar, and then I was like, okay. I wasn't feeling that confident yet in my software skills, but after that, I was also really thankful that we now use digital work and not hand done, because whenever you have to edit something, it's very difficult.
Well, and I bet it speeds you way up.
Right. So
Yeah. And it's so much easier for a client to envision something when you're able to show it in 3D and move around a complete model rather than just look at a fixed picture.
And imagine what that is.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to visualize, be even in a white room, even
Right.
if you're actually standing in the physical room, and try to imagine what it could look like.
Right.
I think that's tricky.
And I think that's something over this last year that we've really brought more into our projects is finishing the interior of a house, even styling it out with their kind of style and colors, and then taking people on a walkthrough. It's been really amazing to see how people are envision their house so much better, and we're able to plan to a finer degree of detail when they see it in a 3D model rather than just looking at floor plans.
Have you seen them change something or
yeah.
catch
Oh,
something
yeah.
really big
Definitely.
through that?
And I mean, I feel like in a sense we've caught the big things when we look through it, but they think, oh, I actually don't like that, window shape the way I thought I did when I see it. And so we can go back and tweak things.
Oh yeah. And better there than once the window
Right.
arrives.
yes, like why not see it what you're actually going to see in
Right.
reality? And we spend a lot of time looking at the floor plans. But I realized, they only spend a fraction of the time actually looking at it, and it's easier for me to also visualize in 3D what it would look like. So it's really great that computer programs have come so far, and just it's fast, easy for us to do full 3D exterior and interiors now.
So Morgan, how did you come on
Yeah.
board?
So about 3 years ago, Monique came to visit me. I was actually living out of state, and we love being together, obviously. And so we were like, let's think of a business idea that we can come up with so we can work together more often. So for like the 10 days that she was there on a trip, we came up with all these ideas.
But you were also looking for something to do. I was still continuing architecture.
Right.
But we were like, could we do something together, or what can Morgan do?
Right.
You were planning on moving back soonish.
Right. So we had all these ideas, and we would present them to our husbands at the end of the day, and like when the kids went to bed, and we talked about them, and they kindly shot down each one of our ideas.
They
and
all
finally,
required lots of money.
they all required lots of money, and they weren't very profitable. So
they're just
Great
fun.
ideas.
Yeah.
Our nail salon can still work.
we want a high-end nail salon, but that's down
It
the
could
road.
just be part of your office space.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
Package,
Get your nails
complete
done
package.
while you
While we
watch the
show
video.
your 3D walkthrough.
Yeah, it's just that we want to have our nails done at an aesthetic place. So we're like, let's create one.
Yeah, but it wouldn't make a lot of money. So anyways, so Monique was like, well, I already have this business. How about she had already been looking to hire someone. And she's like, how about you join me and you can learn? And so for about the 6 months that I was still living out of state, I worked really hard to learn the program on my own. And I helped her with projects a little bit along the way as I learned. And then when I got back, I really got up to speed with what she was doing. And then now we separate a lot of our projects. Like she handles one and I handle the other. Of course, we collaborate a lot and we help each other out. But,
So sorry, really quick. So you handle a full-on thing. You don't break apart tasks.
We did that for a while, but it can get confusing. Of course, we share a lot of
We
stuff.
both start. I'm usually at all meetings, and then we talk about it, and then we kind of divide and conquer and come back together, go over it.
Right. But we found that sharing projects, a lot can get lost in the mix if two people are going over each other's work. So we try to separate it out a little more clearly. And some, we have a lot of interiors or kitchens. Those smaller projects, I might handle all mostly on my own, and Monique will handle some of the commercial projects more on her own. So.
And then Monique, were you doing more schooling? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm currently doing my master's in architecture, about halfway through. So.
Awesome.
And Monique's about to have a baby, by the way. She's a week from her due date or delivery.
Yes.
Accomplishing a lot.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm taking the time off right now for just the baby. I think I'll take a year off school, but that's been good too.
Okay. So, we want to talk a little bit about building trends and what you see for our area, because what would fit in the Pacific Northwest, specifically in Idaho, and what's helpful because we get crazy weather and, all seasons.
Yeah, and I think that relates a lot to we're designing according to the vernacular architecture, and vernacular architecture is like what is local to this area based on materials and knowledge. So if you look at this area, we have a background in history in agriculture and in kind of a cabin style based on all our logging and stuff. So you look at what people want to design in this area, the modern farmhouse trend is definitely big nationwide, but I'd say it's people really like it in this area, and it fits. Like
It does
you
fit.
have a lot of
Right.
farmland.
So
and-
that's a good thing,
Right.
because if the strong trend was Spanish style stuccoed buildings, it just doesn't work here.
Yeah.
You don't want to build a low pitched roof with tiles, and stucco doesn't do well
with snow and
either
stuff.
here. So I do see it as like a nationwide trend,
But it
almost,
particularly
but it
fits with
also-
our area.
Yeah, these were the same type of houses that were being built in like the early 1890s in Moscow, like little white farmhouses, steeper
Yeah.
pitches. And so we're kind of carrying that motif through, I guess.
Right. So I think that we intentionally go into design thinking about like, well, what is the site that it's sitting on, and what, what's going on around it. We're not, if we were in California, we'd be designing a different style, but we really, want to keep trends, more classic and more, instead of just following what's popular.
Right. So they don't just completely die out in 10 years and then it's a dated house, or
Or you're dealing with
doesn't
problems
match
like
the
you
area.
mentioned, right? If you're literally dealing with snow on a roof
Right.
that can't handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
What about like how is that tough to balance like what the clients are looking for and your design? Do you ever have conflicts or like try to what is that balance? Because I would think that if because I love what you're saying about not just going with what's trendy, but with what fits with the area
Right.
and everything else. But do you have to balance that with people really wanting to
Yes.
hit on a trend?
Right. And we do a lot of variety. There's also, you can try to pull them one way. Like maybe it's more craftsman or American craftsman. And that's also a style we see a lot in the older neighborhoods. And so whatever or maybe someone does want a really low pitched modern house. And we enjoy that sort of work too. And so, but then it's like defining that more. Like let's go with something that actually has those mid-century qualities so that it's actually pulling from some like historical precedents and not just like totally random. So there's a good mix of like, okay, then what material palette would actually fit that style,
Right.
or what sort of trend would actually fit the craftsman style house versus the modern shed mid-century thing. So yeah, we do end up with a variety, and it's trying not to. I think the thing that's the hardest is just doing a low quality, low trim house that's just basic, as in there's not really a defined style coming out anywhere. That's the most difficult.
That's
So
what
we
makes
always try
us-
to pull someone into some sort
That
of
makes us
style.
sad.
Yeah. We just don't want boxes with 2 windows and a door.
And a garage.
Cheap,
and
yeah.
a
So
ginormous garage.
Yes, sticking out the front.
Right.
yeah.
So yeah, I think we see those in the building trends in the area, and then I think more nationally, like building things that are popular. Of course, black windows are popular.
Are they more
I think-
expensive for people still?
No,
I think they were, so people were just
Yeah,
doing,
they were
everyone
for
was
a
just
while.
doing white, and now there's some options on the market for like black vinyl windows or
Do they fade, or is there
No,
quality is
they're
still
really
up there?
good quality, and I'm excited to see though more colors come into windows. Like I think
Right.
that like some like muted rusty red or grays and browns could come in. I've seen some houses recently that I really like, so we'd love to have a
yeah, when you
client who would
can't
like
go
those.
with like an aluminum window or a wood window. It's not. I think we see this trend because black has come onto the market as like an affordable option. It's not much more than just white.
Right.
So,
And I think a lot of people are looking for in their floor plan design. I think for a long time it was really a house centered around TV viewing, and I think that's something that we don't like to design in mind. We think when we are starting a house that the kitchen is kind of the heart of the home, and I think that more people are viewing that as important. I think with kind of the foodie movement, I
Right.
think kitchens are becoming a lot bigger deal, and I think
People just gather in the
right.
kitchen.
People are
Yes.
together. So I think we really want to make our kitchens something that are really welcoming, good for hospitality, and we love, of course, grand, beautiful kitchens. So
Yes.
it's really a fun thing to design. And I think that we're seeing people, because the TV, a lot of people want the TV to be the focus of the main space, especially in open concept homes. People have this second room that's like multi-purpose. A lot of people are doing like family rooms that are still off the main living space, but they might also be a den or an office. And so that's I think a trend that we're seeing growing is more people wanting to have these multi-purpose spaces, and the TV can be in that room, and then you have like the living room be your more formal space.
So practically, the open concept, it's been super popular for a while.
Right.
What are your feelings on that?
I like semi-open because I personally like in the house right now, the kitchen is slightly separated, but then my dining and living room are together, and there's not a total visual between the two. So I think sometimes like encased openings, so there's not like a doorway like there used to be in the early 1900s where everything was really in small rooms closed off. But I think sometimes a semi like open space, and maybe keeping the kitchen a little bit out of the line of sight, or one of the rooms, like if you want maybe the kitchen dining room together and then the living room slightly separated. And I think it's also nice to feel like you're in multiple spaces rather than just all your living spaces in one room.
Mm-hmm. Do you see, is that changing from, seems like a few years ago, it was like
Knock all the walls
every
out.
time you'd show a
Right.
house, people are like, oh, we could just take
all
all these
these
walls
out.
out.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
often joked, like, 10 years from now, we're going to be
Yeah.
walking through a house and be like, let's just put walls everywhere. Like,
I also like more formal things. So I
Yeah.
think that's part of being more formal is a little bit of separation, a little bit of definition of the space.
I think we also like to create focal points in a room and direct your view. I think Monique and I really care a lot about like bringing the outside in. So we think
Yes.
about lots of windows, lots of light. What direction is your light coming from? Where are your views? And then I think our floor plan designs reflect that in the sense that we want it to be more formal and direct your views in different ways. And it's hard when it's open concept because you're just in a big, sometimes just in a huge open box, and it can feel kind of cold.
The noise can
And
be
the
a factor.
noise can be bad. So I think that we like to think more about controlling where people are looking and sitting by our layouts.
So you start with the kitchen, the heart of the home. Where do you go from there?
Kind of out to the dining and living room, wherever that might be. And I also think the living room still is a lot of times the heart. But again, it's more about entertaining now and less about like creating really large private spaces. I want to steer away from like humongous bedrooms and
So they're
lots of
shrinking.
bedrooms. I would rather put, if someone was set on a square footage, I would rather put that more into common space. So yes, kind of starting with the main living spaces and then working out from there to keep and things like the kitchen near the garage and utilities near the garage. Just saying, there's just certain program that makes sense in a house.
What about the laundry room layout? See, when the
Right.
laundry room is close to the kitchen, that actually kind of drives me nuts.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
if it's right off the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've heard before that's an appeal for some people.
Right.
like, well, there are
And
a
I
lot
think
of
that's
different-
where
Totally
like it's
personal.
really fun
I
to
think
listen to clients, and like some
sure.
people are like, oh no, I'd never want that, and the next person comes in and
Wants
says,
it.
I love that, and so
Yeah.
you just really don't know. And I think that's something that we love about the first presentation to a client. When we get a new client, we have a meeting and talk about their scope of work and what they're looking for, and then we go away for a couple weeks and we work hard to come out with like maybe 3 to 4 different concepts, and then some are maybe 2 are really similar and then some are really different, and then we present to them. And Monique and I are always, it's exciting because we never know what people are going to say. Like we sometimes think, oh, I bet they'll love this. This is the closest to what they wanted, and then they'll pick something completely different and they're so excited about it, and so it's fun.
Has there been an element that you've discovered that is frequently a surprise for people? So they might come in thinking, okay, I want my kitchen this layout. This seems really practical, but you guys have this design that you figured is incredible to make kitchen flow work really well, or something like that.
Yeah, I can't really
I think
of
some
particular
people
examples,
talk
but-
about like the triangle in
Right.
a kitchen design. People I think they've heard that and they really latch onto it, but I don't think it's actually something that is always good to follow, because I think that there's so many things to factor in. Where's the doorway into your kitchen, and what are you moving around? And some people are like, well, you can make anything a triangle, really, if you think about it. Like if you have a big rectangle, you can put a refrigerator way over in a far corner and that's still a triangle. So I think that sometimes people come in with this preconceived notion of how it should be, and then when they see, and then, everyone wants their kitchen. Some people want their sink in their island. Some people want the oven, the stovetop in the island. And you just never, it's just kind of all about moving things around, tweaking as you go along.
Yeah, like one client had a really beautiful rural property, and they thought they wanted just a box so that they didn't disrupt like the land around them, and they're amongst pine trees. But really, to take advantage of that site is to spread out, and so it really moved into more of an elongated, linear plan with a courtyard, and that really took an actual advantage of the site. So sometimes people just have like a totally different idea. They want the same thing, but
They don't know how to get there.
we can bring something
That's
totally
really fun.
different, and then you get more light, more windows on all sides with that sort of plan instead of just being a box surrounded by the field or forest.
Right.
That's really fun.
So a lot of people are obviously concerned about budget, right?
Oh, yes.
What do you have? How do you balance that? And then I guess the one particular question would be, are there any particular elements that you guys can speak to that are extremely budget sensitive, if that makes sense?
Yes.
So either like, oh man, if you can, windows is where all of a sudden you can just go through the roof, or are there ways that, like, what are the easiest ways for somebody to still achieve design but maybe compromise on whether it's
Have more money
materials
than
or-
you think you need.
or budget.
I think a classic example is they get a price from a contractor, say they're kind of mid-range, like 160 a square foot. Then they say, okay, well, this is my budget, therefore I can build a 2,400 square foot house. But the contractor is not even including the garage, which could be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more plus, depending on how big it is. So that's not a small expense. And then if you're on a rural property, you have your driveway, your utilities, a well, and so they set their max budget, and then they're already just like losing at the very beginning. So, and then
So we will have a shed.
It's hard once you show someone a 4,000 square foot house
Yeah.
to
Cut down.
or backtrack. I mean, that's a large house, but like if that's what they got their mind set on, and then you present something awesome, it's really hard partway through the design phase, and harder for us to be like, okay, well now we need to totally redesign this and like scale down. So being realistic about all the other expenses right from the get-go. And then you want to talk like about materials. And
Right. I think that, if let's say you want this 4,000 square foot house, but you need to consider that what has your builder priced into? Is that with your basic trim package? What kind of countertops and tile are you getting? Or are you getting tile at all? And I think some people, they want to design big, and then at the end they realize, oh, I've compromised because I've got quantity, I don't have quality. So I think that, consider all of that going into it. And, you can get a really great house with beautiful finishes, and it doesn't have to be a mansion, And
No.
so I think that what do you really value? And some people do just want size.
Right.
That's fine too. But I think that we really value quality. And so we want to encourage our clients to think about that and think about the whole package. We're not just here to get you a foundation poured and get going. We really want to see this house last for a long time and be something that we're proud of too, to say that we want to bring this beauty to Moscow, and that's something we're really passionate about. We want Moscow to get better and to raise the standard, and so we care a lot about that.
Right. So I think it really comes down to square footage. So
So that's the biggest.
yeah.
And square
And
footage.
then,
right?
but then so much, it just depends on what they want. But we'd rather see a smaller square footage, so that they maybe end up with their quartz or granite countertops
Right.
like they wanted, and just higher quality finishes.
and
all
maybe a
around.
little for landscaping.
Oh yes, for
Yeah, like-
landscaping, I know.
Who's gonna have money left over for that?
Is that like the biggest thing that people don't think of?
Oh,
Well,
I mean,
at the
obviously there's
very
driveway
end.
infrastructure, everything else.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
$1,000 for landscaping.
Right.
And then that's hard around here when you're building on a rural lot. Usually
starting
you're like
from
on
scratch.
a windswept hill with no trees. It's like, how long is it going to be until they get a tree planted out there?
That lives and survives.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'll
We're
insert
sympathetic about that.
my classic realtor joke is around here you spell view, W-I-N-D. So that's totally
That's
true.
perfect.
I know.
If
Yeah.
you view, you got win.
Oh man.
Do you guys see any material trends changing? It seems like just the last few years you see more and more synthetics, stuff that's fake but really, really good.
Yeah.
Are you into that stuff?
I mean, yeah, definitely has its place around here with all the water and snow, and
Now
you just
owning
don't want to have to do upkeep on a deck.
Oh,
you know.
Now owning a really old house with all natural materials, I'm like, yeah, I kind of see why people do this, because you're replacing and fixing and tweaking all the time. So I think that they've gotten really good, and they look a lot more natural, and so yeah, people can find good substitutes.
Do you have a favorite color trend?
Oh dear.
Have you looked
White
at our
and black.
Instagram? I didn't think we really had that defined of a style, but apparently we kind of are developing that subconsciously.
It's not that we all tell people they have to have white and black houses, but that's what people like.
Well, they're very crisp.
yeah.
They are.
They look good. And I think that follows with the modern farmhouse trend. It's really popular
Absolutely.
right now.
Right.
So
So if we're doing something else,
What about interior?
we're gonna try to bring in some color.
yeah, we're gonna
Gray.
spice things up. No gray.
It is hard. I think that is part of the trend, like the whitewashed oak kind of look, and like the white on white.
Yeah, I think interiors wise,
and it's dark around here. And
It is dark.
so we do like the brighter, the more light neutrals. We like that a lot. I love tan. I think it went through a rough
It did.
start in the 90s, but I think that it's coming back, and I really like
There's
like,
a good tan
There's a good
color,
tan.
and there's
The
a
green
lot of
should've
bad
got
tan
it. Yeah.
colors.
Yeah, so I think interior wise, people love like the white oak plank floors. That's really in right now. Most people are doing quartz countertops. Yeah, interior, like Everyone wants a separate water closet in their master bathroom. A lot of people don't have bathtubs in their masters. I think that's something that surprised me recently. People are like, oh no, just give me a big shower, a big walk-in shower. Another trend people are talking about is that we see some clients mention is like a room, like a wet room in their bathroom that's like a tub and a shower combined.
Okay.
And so it's just like a drain in the middle of the floor. So
See, for just thinking on rural property, because that's where we are, we need a whole room, I think, just to come in from the wet outdoors.
like a mud.
We need a mudroom, but on the front and the back.
Yes.
And anywhere you are going to enter.
There's a ring around the house of like a mud room. A
The
hallway.
moat. We need some kind of
Maybe that's why people have the wraparound porches, kind of like
just
start getting a layer
start
off.
shedding. Yeah, before you come in.
Yeah,
No.
because that's something I feel like. The other one is the garage drainage.
Oh,
that
yeah. Oh, yeah.
we get this pool of water in our garage, and so that's just more thoughts on that.
Right.
Either pulling to a center drain or sloping out. But yeah, that's really important around here when you drive in with a big chunk of ice and
On
then
your,
melt.
and it just melts.
It just stays there.
Yeah, water drainage is a good.
So do you guys think a lot about those kind of practical things as part of the design?
Yeah. And then a lot of that is just, coming down to the construction drawings and specifying those sort of things. Like, do you want your garage to slope out or do you want it to slope to a center drain? And
And it's things probably people hadn't even thought about, because I don't think I would have ever thought about it
Right.
until we ran into it.
Right.
yeah.
You know, so.
So you think, if you could encourage people to do something, it would be just talk to you earlier in the
Yeah,
process?
I think we're really surprised we see.
In terms of like,
We
because
have
you mentioned the
clients that-
budget, right?
yeah.
And so a lot of times
Right.
they come to you and then you're having to be the ones being
Right.
like,
Bad
you
news.
need to think
Right.
about all this other stuff.
And I think that we're surprised too how late in the game people will start designing. They might already have their property, which is fine, but also they are saying, "Oh, we want to start building in the spring," and they get in contact with us in February, and we're like, "Well, And so I think it can compromise the design because we're going really fast, and they might not think about some important things that they might miss those. So we'd encourage people to get started
For our
earlier.
sake.
Yeah.
Well, probably for their sake.
I think more for their sake. We can whip out stuff pretty quickly if we are on a tight timeline. But I think that I want people to really have thought through: is this really what you want, and not just this is the first thing that we were presented with.
What is that timeline typically? Do you have a typical timeline for maybe separated remodels versus homes, or maybe it's the same?
I mean, right now, so in January, this month, we've got a couple new clients that are all rural builds. So that's a little bit bigger than just being on a smaller subdivision lot. And all three of them need designs for beginning of spring. And it would be nice to have the plans a month or so in advance, so you your contractor knows what they're doing. You've sent it to the truss manufacturer. And so that for us is like pretty tight timeline. We can
It's
get it
fun
done,
too,
but I think
but-
6 months if you're going to do something more custom and larger is a little bit easier. And just the process. And then they can sit on it. If we finish early, they can just sit on it and get planning on the other specs that they're going to do inside the house. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Are you seeing more people doing like remodels or new build or?
Yeah, I'd say.
We're doing definitely a mixture, but to me, like prices are high right now.
They
for
are.
existing houses. So when people buy it, how much do people have left over to do an addition or a big remodel? But that is about half our work is remodels and additions. So and kitchens.
Interiors, and we do interior design, help people source light fixtures and couches and rugs and stuff. So we do also that mix of stuff. And it's fun also to do a full project. We have one house right now. We actually didn't do the architectural design for it because he moved with the plans already done it from out of state. But we're doing all the interior, like helped him figure out what kind of texture you want on your drywall and what kind of trim size and all the paint colors. And that was fun to help someone all the way down to the very end and see what it turns out to be like.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
So do you feel like I would think that like, what is it? The problem of just too many choices would be overwhelming.
For you guys, but I mean, that's why someone would hire you.
That's why somebody would hire you. Like, do you feel like you're getting better and better at that? Or do you still sometimes like, man, there are so many choices out there.
It's a
What
lot
do we
easier to
pick?
decide for other people than it is for yourself.
it's
When I
all-
thought about building my own house, I'm like, I'm going to die with all the options because I've seen all the ways you can go.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier when someone already comes in with like, this is my style and this is kind of what I want. And then I'm like, that gives me a great thing to start with.
And I think architecture is more objective, and then interior design is so subjective. So you're trying to figure out, well, do you like this? There's no real right or wrong, whether you like that color or that sofa.
But I think
whereas I
that-
feel like architecture is like, this is good circulation.
It's
This
a little
is good
more math.
massing. This is good proportions. And you can direct someone in a more like technical way.
Right.
Right.
Like
So
this
that's
doesn't,
easier for
a
me.
toilet will not fit here, whereas it's hard to say, well, this color won't work, you know?
Right.
So,
right. At the same time, I think that's a huge help for someone too, because you can get distracted with your own style, where you like this one new trendy thing and it might not mesh at all with the rest of your stuff, but you need someone from the outside to say, no, that does not work.
right.
No, I still need input. That's why I'm more. It is hard when you're making your own decisions.
really hard.
You just want to bounce the ideas off people.
Yeah. Or just have someone
Just
say,
say,
this
decide.
is it. This
Right.
is it. Or this between two items. Here you go.
Right.
Yes.
It can
You
be
know?
crippling, so it's nice
Yeah.
to have a team on your side to kind of help you out.
Absolutely. Well, we should probably wrap it up. Although we didn't even touch on commercial design, so we might have to do that on another
Do
time.
another one. Yeah, but
Cool.
where do people find out all about you guys and what you're doing?
Through our website, Instagram, and then just locally a lot of word of mouth through contractors or realtors. So
We might know one.
And your website is, we'll link to it in the notes,
Okay.
but your
It's-
website.
just harbypoints.com.
And we're at Harby Points on Instagram.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well, guys, thanks so much.
It was really
Thank
fun.
you.
to do.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.